Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Mastering Runeterra Squadcast. It's post-seasonal, and you know what that means. We've got the seasonal champion joining us. Floppy, how's it going? Welcome to the Squadcast. Good to have you here, and everybody else. We also have some usual suspects, but we've also got Random7 joining us today as well. Random, how are you?
Hey, doing fine. How about you?
Gentlemen, how's everybody else doing?
Doing pretty well. Enjoying the new patch, all that exciting stuff.
Yeah, just chilling.
Yeah. Chilling.
Yeah,
okay.
Loving the new cards.
Yeah, I
got new Demacian stuff, so that makes me happy.
New expansion's been a lot of fun, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting brews to come out, and I'm sure a lot more is going to be discovered over the next couple days. But before we get to talking about that, why don't we talk a little bit about the most recent seasonal champion? Considering we have the champion with us today, figured we'd go through it a little bit. I myself was on the desk, which was a great, wonderful experience. I haven't been able to do anything quite like that before. It was awesome. Floppy, how did you find running through the seasonal champions? What was kind of your mentality going into the open rounds, and then once you made top cut, did you feel super well positioned? Did you come in strong, or were you a little bit worried? I know you went up against P-Tash in the first round, and that was kind of a mirror matchup there. Do you want to talk us through a little bit what went through your head?
Yeah, so my strategy for open rounds, I just wanted to bring strong, well-rounded decks. So ended up on Pantheon, Fiora, and Nami Lee, which are just the two best decks, and they felt strong enough where I could win against anyone trying to counter them in open rounds. And I bought Sivu Akshan as the third because CardGamer was testing it, and it was feeling very strong, a lot better than I expected. So we decided that was the deck to be on because it felt very strong for that. And then going into Top Cut, I just completely changed out everything. Went on the whole target Ionia lineup because Ionia put up some crazy numbers in open rounds, and yeah, it worked out pretty well from there.
Definitely worked out for you. What was it like? Go ahead, Phansora.
I was going to say real quick, what was your top cut lineup?
Azir Irelia, Annie Jin, and Yasuo Katarina.
And I'm curious, what was the best deck? What was the most standout out of those three?
They all did pretty well. I think Annie Jin did the best. I think it was banned 3 times, and it won the other 2 games.
Not bad. A lot of people weren't expecting Annie Jin to go well at all. I know we were talking amongst the casters beforehand, and they were saying, Skarzik in particular was talking about how he didn't expect Annie Jin to show up. He didn't expect it to do well. I was like, it might be here. It might be here.
I feel like Azir Irelia is the one that came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was just Boulevard or someone else, but the Yasuo Cat was by Wednesday, everyone was talking about it a little bit. Annie Jin, I've seen some stuff, but Azir Irelia I had seen not at all. Not people testing on ladder, nothing.
So it was interesting. Me and Mo had 5 decks. We had 5 decks that we thought beat Nami. Yasuo Cat, Azir Irelia, Annie Jin, Poppy Tarek, and MF Swain were the 5 decks that we had. And then you build a lineup of 3 of those 5, and you can beat Nami. Was kind of where we ended up. Then it was just a question of comfort and matchups. I really liked the Annie Jin build though, because that was my whole thing against Annie Jin was you play Decimate, they play Deny, and you lose. So I was really happy to see that you went with the Decimate less Annie Jin list. Yeah,
the Mana Soul students popped off against Ionia decks. Ionia just can't deal with that card very well.
I mean, it deals 2 to 3 damage while providing you a body, and if you have stuns, you can just chip in with it.
And if you have Jin, Jin's going turbo fast with that too.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, against these Ionia decks, a lot of the time, because you are going so much wider than them, the Mana Soul student also gets to chip in, where most of the time, since other decks try and contest on board way better than Ionia, it's a lot harder for these cards to get in, and they're relegated a lot more to an engine task and slow your deck down, but against Ionia, it actually makes it faster because you don't have to try and get decimated around the 9.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of the decimateless build, but once you've explained it, makes a lot of sense to me. Just not something that's necessarily apparent just when you look at it. But yeah, that was very much an interesting seasonal top cut. We kind of saw this pivot to the beat Ionia winning, and like it was just strange. It's definitely a stacked top cut. I think that has to be the most stacked top cut we've ever had.
And it's like everyone who made top cut was like bringing some like off meta picks, so it was very interesting because of that. But, like all the top four, I mean.
Was it pretty much all just either the best lineup or counter lineups? There was nothing else, right? You were either on the best 3 decks or like full anti Ionia. Or was there more to it?
Well, like MTux and Cup were like trying to target Pantheon. They brought Ash and Scion.
That's right.
And there was the Gwen Zed deck, which I'm still not sure what it's supposed to do. I just banned it.
So Cephalopod was actually trying to find that out too, because he lost to it.
Yeah, so I actually ended up playing a few games of it on ladder, just in between like seasonals and new patch when I had some time, just on the phone. And the deck was pretty solid. It's doing a lot of stuff Red Gwen is doing. It's giving up some of like the explosiveness and Cat Rally just for like good interaction. And then you just get to play the broken cards, right? You get Monkey, and you get your Visaian Disciple, and you get Momentous. And you had Hookmaster in the other version, but you're still playing Hookmaster, which is one of the best cards in the game. So you're just playing good cards and trying to tempo on people, for lack of a better word.
Yeah,
do we want to get into the new cards?
Yeah, we can definitely switch over to that. I was playing a little bit of that that list that Drizoth tweeted out. I don't know if you guys saw it, the TF Akshan one that kind of looks to capitalize on Bloodletters and Iberos to win the game. It's interesting. I don't know how good it actually is, but it's definitely
my Discord's
a lot of
been
fun.
going off with that one. Him and Tank were doing some nasty things with it earlier today. They were going infinite on like turn 5 or 6 and like playing like 5 units or something. I don't know what they were doing. They were doing some stuff that apparently was very broken. All I got was like just like images and screenshots of like people playing like vomiting out entire hands for 0 mana. But
yeah, I mean, a lot of those decks look really interesting, and they tend to pop off day one, but it's always interesting to see what sticks, just because like the stuff that pops up right away and on day one is so unrefined, and it's just a mess. Like, it's very fun to play in this environment because you can just throw anything at the wall, and a lot of it will end up working, at least for a little bit. But it's always interesting to look at what ends up staying and going. Like the TF Akshan deck, like you're playing very strong champions that got pretty reasonably strong new cards, and you have like this pretty linear game plan that is reliable to go off. So it is doing very well right now, and I'm sure like it does get some really funny void states and those powerful things, but it'll be really interesting to see how that does compared to like a week from now when people maybe go back to old meta things or people solve like new meta things. Like I don't think we figured out Vayne or Varus or any of the new champs.
I mean, I think I figured out Vayne, but that's just me.
All right, we can talk about that later.
I do think that on the surface, though, these champs look more promising than last sets.
Yeah,
I have to.
They definitely look a lot more
love these
powerful.
champs. Well, I also just love how they're like not linear deck builds. It's not like you just take a champion and you just like, oh, this is the pre-built deck for it. It's like there's so much flexibility, which is awesome.
Yeah, all 3 of them seem to fit like a general playstyle instead of, like you said, a pre-built kind of thing, right? And not just the champs this set, like a lot of the regular cards seem really good and help expand archetypes. Like for example, the Foyer, Gwen's Landmark. That one I think is like one of the biggest cards for that archetype.
Dude, that card is actually insane. That card, like, literally, when I draw that card, I'm just, like, winning almost every game. That card is nuts.
Do you think it's going to be played in all Gwen decks? Like, I know it's very good in Gwen Vayne.
No.
I'm not going to question that. It's enough in that deck. But
Not all.
I don't think it's in every Gwen deck.
It's like a Demacia Gwen thing.
You need like the free attacks or these scouts or something.
Yeah.
I mean, you need to be able to like rally, and like the best thing is when you have one of those down and you rally, you get a free unit.
Yeah.
So you can rally defensively and you get a blocker. It's just nuts. And like if you ever get 2 of them down, you can just like rally and just like refill boards in states that.
And it really helps make up for one of the issues Hollow had of just like wanting to trade off its units and not having the most card draw. Like a lot of Hollow lists run 3 Glimpse to try and help that, but 3 Glimpse isn't that much card draw.
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing that Hollow decks needed is Gwen needed more hollowed triggers. Like you wanted to play Strike Up the Ban, but you couldn't justify playing a 3-mana card that got you 2 ephemerals. But like you needed more hollowed units to die. And this card is like 4 or 5. It's like 4 or 5, which is awesome. And it's like it staggers them. It's like monkey business, like the monkey card used to be, right? Where you get like 1 on this turn and 1 on the next turn, right? Like that's what this landmark does.
It's nice that it gives it to you every single time you get an attack token. Kind of bonkers. I've definitely seen some funny Seraphine stuff happen. Seraphine with the new Shurima 2-mana spell and some Overwhelm units can do some very, very funny things.
Does that quadruple damage
spell?
if you double cast it?
It does.
Oh. Yeah, it works like Dreadway.
It quadruples?
Yeah, quadruples, and then 8 times if you have 3 of them.
Oh my god.
That she'll double cast the Absolver for you too. She does some very, very funny things.
Oh my goodness. That's
These champions are definitely on a whole new power level. Like, it's unbelievable how much stronger they are when compared to the champions from the last set. Varus is the only one that hasn't been super standout impressive to me yet, but I think that's just because his archetype is like a little bit more complex.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if anyone's tried or seen anything interesting out there with him.
Sonic sent us that Varus Fizz deck. That's like
that...
Aphelios, but Varus style. I don't know how good that is, but it's interesting.
Paper
I was hearing rumors of like Varus Gwen, Varus Zed, and you just like play a bunch of pump spells, and you just like hit people for like I was told you can hit people for like 30 damage, and then you have a spell shield and a deny. Is what I was told.
That sounds funny.
So yeah, like you just like play like 2 Momentous Choice, and you're at like. I think 2 Momentous Choice is like 10 or 12 damage, I think, or something like that. Right? Because Momentous Choice, it's 2 for this card, and then it's 4 for the thing. So your Varus goes to like 14 attack with just 1 Momentous Choice. It's like something like that, and then you like play the spell shield and the deny, and it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Varus is like good at what he does. He's very good at like pumping himself, right? And his weapon is very good at, converting, like investing yourself into more damage and like more than it's worth. I think there's a bit of an issue right now where like I don't know if there's a second champ in a region that really wants him, and I don't think he's as self-sustained as he would want to be inside of the Darkin region right now. Like the cultist options. You get a lot of good options, and the cultist region is pretty toolboxy, which is nice, but I don't think it gives you quite everything you want right now. But I think next expansion, it's going to be really exciting because like by the time next expansion hits, like that region is going to be pretty much like old Vandal City. Like just whatever you need, you got it.
So the thing with this region is like there's people building like 3 various 0 Kane decks, and I get that they want to do slightly different things, but you just get a free card draw just by putting in 1 Kane.
They're different origins.
Yeah.
So.
You do that, so you can.
They're different origins. Well, the cards are the same, right?
Yeah, but would lock you to only go
You would mono Darkin, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, never mind. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go ahead and
never
try.
mind.
Yeah,
Bad idea.
That's how I thought it worked. That's how I.
Okay.
That's how I thought it worked, but I wanted to make sure.
Darkins would
I tried
actually.
to mess around with it because I was like, okay.
I thought you could go Darkin X and then put Varus and then 1 Kane and get a free draw somewhere down the line.
That's
Darkins would be very good if that was the case.
That's Aatrox.
Especially when Aatrox came out. But like,
just a free draw to everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard some people speculate that might be what Aatrox does.
What
You
else
can
is it
play
gonna
all
do?
Darkin. Oh
Yeah.
my!
Mhm.
It's what is it? You get all Darkin and all cultists. You can put all Darkin champions.
Would be kind of cool.
Is there any like other standout cards you have besides Fourier for Prodigy? And not champions?
It stands out in my heart, but unfortunately, I don't think the card has a home right now. But the Darkin Harp, man, I love that card. And
I really
that's
like it too.
It's a good card. Like it, and when I say this, I mean like if we had a limited format, this would honestly be one of the best cards in that format because the value it gives you is so absurd. It's just when you try and build a deck that's Piltover and Zon and uses this card, it's so miserable.
I want Starata to have like Spell Shield or something.
Yeah. I mean, even if he gets removed, like, instantly, it's really not that bad because of how Darkin weapons give you value. It's just like, what deck do you put this in where it's like helping your win condition? And then
Well, like, even
there's none.
just like the base quick attack, that's not something that PNT cares about.
Yeah, not really. So it's, you know, a bit unfortunate. And then it makes you want to play in Demacia, right? But then you're playing like Demacia PNT, and then, you know, you're not very happy about that either. So it's like, all right, well,
Don't let baseball
I guess
hear
I won't
you.
play with this card. Yeah.
Have you tried have you thought about Yia with it?
I haven't thought about Yia since 2-1 Baboon, I'll be honest. Yeah.
Sorry to break your heart like that.
Yeah, we have 2 mana 5/5. What
Yeah.
do you mean?
Oh yeah, that'll save
That
you
card
guys.
is, but it's temp. It's not. It's not.
Yeah, but it's
permanent.
like it's a Lulu.
If it was
at
permanent,
home.
the card would be nuts.
Yeah, no.
Lulu at
You
home.
play suit up and it's permanent.
Noxus has Lulu at home, half Lulu at home too.
Oh, the other
That's an interesting
new
card. Yeah, the one that tutors.
Legion something.
Yeah, I've seen some people theorize some interesting stuff with that. None of it looks particularly
The Noxus
promising.
card.
Yeah, the Noxus
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
I'm honestly so lost.
Okay,
with this
so here's
expansion.
here's my thought with that card. You play Scion and then you put that card in there, right? Because you play the Chompers already, and then you can like turn your Chompers into 5/2s.
Yeah.
And then you can also use it to tutor your Lost Soul. And like sometimes with that deck, you like don't have your discard stuff, and now you can just draw it.
Yeah, I built it to tutor
with your
Rumble
deck online.
instead because I don't think you can't get
Does
Scion
Scion really
right,
want to spend?
with it.
True.
I think if he's pumped in your deck, you can get him.
I
but I'm
don't
not
think
sure.
so.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I think
If he's
No, you
flipped, you
can't.
I
can
think
for
the pump
sure.
If he's
applies
flipped,
in
yeah.
hand, right? Yeah, if he's flipped for sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I was using it to tutor
I don't know
Rumble
about the other
and then also use on Chompers if needed. It gets Lost Soul
That's interesting.
if that matters. you know?
Yeah,
Exactly. No, I think it does.
Wait, what card is this?
the 2-mana spell.
The 2-mana
Noxus.
Noxus spell.
If you're looking at
Legionary
mobile
Charge,
lytics, it's not there.
2-mana burst. It grow a unit to 5 attack or draw a unit with 5+ power.
Gotcha.
You should be able to draw a Scion with it if it's been buffed already.
Okay, I wasn't sure if the
Like if it's already summoned.
I wasn't
Because
sure
that's how it works with Babbling Jurg, right? If it's already buffed, Babbling can draw it, right?
Yeah, so like if
okay.
you have like the level Trundle, right, Beer can draw it. The thing that I wonder about is if you can ever draw a level 1 Scion with that. Like if you had a Scion in hand that you saw was like 5 power and then you like discarded it, would it draw that Scion?
Because Babbling works with Omen Hawk, right?
I'm not sure.
Like back in like 2020, I feel like I remember you could draw a
2020.
Assessor.
Okay.
My memory is
Okay,
not
this
that
might be
good,
too-
I'm gonna be honest.
Back when I was
My memory might be 2 years
I
out
used
of
to be able
date.
to get that.
Like I feel like I remember drawing Assessor, but I'm not 100% sure.
Well, technically, actually, Omen is a bit different, right?
Yeah.
Because it says buff in deck, but does Scion say buff all Scions, like plus whatever?
Does it just say, like, I have?
hand.
Yeah, I think it's.
Oh, it does say I have. What does that mean? I don't.
Yeah.
I think it might be an aura. I think if it's an aura, it should
I
still
love
work.
Riot wording.
So in hand, it doesn't get
you have to play the
destroyed
deck.
by She Who Wander, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, we should
works-
probably move on from
any other
Scion.
favorite
Yeah, we
cards
can move
from-
on
from
from
the
this
set?
niche Scion interactions.
So Prodigy, I'm curious if you've already like fallen in love with Darkin Aegis or something.
It's not. I cut it from my Gwen list, my Gwen Vayne list. That was one of the first cards cut.
I feel like it doesn't make a ton of sense in that deck, though.
It doesn't. So the reason, like, so the new 6-drop is pretty cool. Like the Harpy. That
Oh
card's
yeah, that one's.
cool.
That card doesn't die.
card.
Anything
I
that
cut
doesn't
that
die
too.
is
It's
kind
just
of
too slow.
really.
Well, in his deck, it doesn't make
For
sense,
Gwen
right?
Vayne,
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that card is very, very, very good. But I didn't need it to win games. I just needed more rallies and more other stuff.
That's fair.
No, I mean the Aegis card is fine. The problem is like it's just. I mean, it's essentially it's a 2-mana 1/1 that gives you tough, right? Which is like good, but it's not great. And it's just not quite.
I was just thinking as a
It's more for a
resident
deck that
Ionia
wants you
hater.
playing to like turn 7 or 8. Yeah, I mean, well, one, there's not a lot of Ionia on today because it's
Not
Thursday,
today,
so
but
everyone's
it's
playing Ionia.
not gotten hit, and it looks like it's going to be a decent position with these new cards.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, no, I think it might come back later. But
I don't think Darkin Aegis is particularly great in like Gwen Vayne. It isn't exactly doing what you want to be doing, but I think like the card is kind of nuts. Like you say, it's like 2 mana for like 1/1/1 tough, which like doesn't sound that good, but like that's a permanent sharp sight, but better.
True.
That you just like put on your units and it comes
This-
back to hand, and then it also becomes a challenger later for removal that has like more upside and can create forks because of how it constricts.
It's like
mana.
a Fiora
Like,
Pantheon
the
style
card's
card.
pretty good. Yeah, and like Sivir,
Yeah.
it wants to be in like
No, the cards- yeah, the-
very
the
like
cards-
mid-sized Demacia.
the card wants to be played in stuff where you have synergy points. So like fish, you want to play fish slap with this. You want to play like the Harpy with this. You want to play cards that like a more re-equipping of your weapons kind of build. And like you play with Vayne, but maybe not in this Vayne Gwen build.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you're just so tight on like you need your hollows, you need your rallies, you need your weapons, and then like all of a sudden you're like, and I'm at like 45 cards and I have to start cutting already.
I agree with you that it isn't in there, but like, man, this card is nuts. Like, even if I'm not playing it in Gwen Vayne necessarily, like I'm still singing this card's praises. Like, this card is insane, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of Fan Club President? It's the 4-mana
I
2/2
love
that
it.
manifests a 5-cost spell. That sets
I
it to
thought
2.
this card was really good, and now I think the card is like really, like kind of not great. Unless you're playing it with Seraphine and, you know, like popping off like that.
Yeah.
Or timelines, what I've heard.
Oh.
Oh, yeah,
That
sure,
makes a lot of
timelines.
sense as a
But then you're
timelines
playing
card.
timelines for 2 mana.
True. But I feel like
Question.
2-mana timelines
that doesn't
isn't
super
even
matter.
bad.
That like never mattered. The deck just wasn't good to begin with, and people were unhappy about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think she's pretty good.
So at first I kind of thought it was met, because if you look at the 5-cost spell pool, it's like kind of mid across the whole thing.
Is it?
There's some good stuff, and there's a lot of like kind of mediocre stuff for what type of decks you'd put this in if you're running with Seraphine. But having seen it, I think the fact that you get 3 polls, you're often
Yeah, you get to choose, right? From 3?
yeah, it's
yeah.
a manifest.
My issue with the card is that it doesn't actually buy you back any value. It just kind of shifts around when you're paying for it. So it's only good if you're really popping off with Seraphine, and I don't think there's like actually good Seraphine decks yet.
That is
I
fair.
mean,
it's
maybe
not-
there are, but
It's not just for that, right? Because you're putting in this some like, you know, Victor Bar or Shell or something, where you don't really care about the proactivity of playing a 4-mana 2/2. You care that later down the line you're going to have these like really big turns with Bar where you discount a whole bunch of mana and you can swing back all your tempo.
yeah.
And like something like Seraphine does help with
I
that.
mean,
'cause you can
it's
double.
fine. Like, I think cards like that are really solid and have a purpose.
It's
like
I
in
get what you're
that
saying.
sense, it's
I think
kind
that
of like
the sort of deck that this
Forge
would
of
fit in
Tomorrow.
simply doesn't care.
I'm sorry, my internet cut out for a second, I think.
I feel like part of the issue with Fan Club President is that it's a 4 mana for a 2/2. Like, you compare that to Zap Strafin, Pharaoh's Conch, and it just feels slightly worse than the rest of them. Like, it doesn't feel like a bad card, but it just feels worse than the other Manifest card and Search cards that are currently being played. Because, like, it's basically a 1 mana card. You get a 3 mana discount for because it's 4 mana and then it's a 1 mana stat. So you have 3 mana subtracted. So I believe it was CardGamer that was saying that you're basically just shuffling around when you're paying the mana, and now you're paying the mana up front in unit mana instead of using spell mana. And spell mana is generally less valuable than unit mana anyway.
Yeah. Really well put.
I mean,
there's some decks that can take advantage of it. My internet cut out.
Definitely.
But where I was going with this is like comparing it to like Forge of Tomorrow, which we all thought was like broken on release, and then it was like, well, some decks do a really, really good job of taking advantage of this and like essentially like doing a down payment on mana. And like Victor Bar is probably one of those decks. And then there's stuff like Timelines that like cheats the value on this card, right? And then it's very good, of course. But I think generally speaking, it's pretty not like that insane. It's just like a pretty like solid card. It's like reasonable value. It's on par for like.
Yeah, I don't think it's great, but I feel like looking at like last meta, for instance, you could afford to play this card in last meta because you didn't need the unit on turn 4, but you could use the discount later.
Well, it really depends what type of deck you're doing, right? Because like a lot of decks could never play this card because if you're playing a 4 mana 2/2, especially like a 4 mana 2/2 with no keywords on the ground, like how are you ever beating these like Ionia decks and these Pantheon decks, right?
Like Victor Karma.
Yeah, and like I do think it would be good in Victor Karma, right? And like I think Victor Karma, I would say it's like a Forge type of deck, right? A Forge type of deck where it like does a very good job of taking advantage of how the mana gets shifted around in later turns. But I don't think this is like you just jam this in every deck like Conches or like Pharaohs was for a while, you know? I don't think it's that card.
Yeah.
I mean, what you're paying? Let's say what 2/2 is what you pay for a mana. So you're basically,
Yeah.
I mean, you're basically paying 6 mana.
It's on rate.
6 mana stuff, right?
Yeah, but like Random said,
you're paying 1 mana for the 2/2, and then you're paying 5 mana for the 5 cost.
But the unit mana is generally more valuable than the spell mana, right? So it's like you can shift that around, but like it's pretty on rate.
You're paying for the synergy. You're paying for the synergy points.
Oh,
Yeah.
or the high roll points.
You're paying for the new, and you're paying for the doubling with the Seraphine, right?
You're also paying for the fact that you might have breathing space now, but not later. So being able to weave in a 5-cost spell for 2 mana is good.
Mm-hmm.
Has anybody had a chance to play with the new Altar card in Shurima? The one that discounts your next Darkin?
Darkin discount?
Oh, that one?
Yeah.
I've heard good things about that card, but I haven't played with it yet.
Same.
Apparently, like, even Tarosh is kind of a consistent win con if you just slap that thing down early enough, which is kind of insane.
Yeah, it was kind of...
That's like a 10 mana card.
Kind of wild. I played it in one game. The very first game I played, I had a 4 mana Tarosh.
4?
Yeah.
Are you playing this with like Nasus
I double
or something?
drew. Yeah, I put it in Nasus Thresh and I double drew it.
Okay, you double drew.
I
the
double drew the
landmark.
landmark and I drew a bunch of weapons. But it was like turn 3 into turn 4, and then on turn 5 I slammed a 4 mana Tarosh and banked 1 mana.
So the card is exactly when you have a unit die or when you slay a unit. Your Darkin's cost.
Slay.
It's only slays.
Okay.
Have a unit die. Holy shit.
That would be bonkers.
Like one of your units, obviously.
Evelyn
but, like-
Husks, hello?
Oh yeah, no, that's true. That's true. Dude, I forget Evelyn's in the game half the time. I'm gonna be honest with you. Now that hate spike's there, there was the hate spike period in the game where Evelyn was a champ, and then there's the rest of the time.
Back to being invisible.
So like with Altar though, like I can't tell if this is actually like, oh, Darkin Ramp, or is it just like a win more card?
It turned my unplayable hand of like the Darkin Spear plus other random trash into a very playable hand. So I had like I triple drew Darkin weapons and like double drew the altar, and then just a bunch of random garbage because I'm playing Noxus Thresh and I had a bunch of early game stuff. I think like two Vile Feasts and stuff, and it turned my unplayable hand into a highly playable hand. So I don't know. I thought it was going to be like really bad, and I was like, shit, this is worst case scenario. Like I just double drew the one card that I only want to see one of my whole game, and then it just completely unbricked itself. And I was like, maybe this is better than I expected. I don't know. Would definitely have to play it a lot more to figure out. But
you're playing it with Zolani like almost all the time, right? Yeah. Because like it wants slaves and whatnot. So I think the question then becomes like, can you afford this tempo loss? Because like if you can afford the tempo loss in the early game, the card pays for itself like very quickly with a Zolani. Like playing 2 Zolanis pays for this card, right? In terms of like mana spent. So it's just if you can afford the tempo. But yeah, pretty interesting card. I didn't pay any mind to it at first, but like I was talking to some people last night and it got my attention of like this card's actually good. And then yeah, I've heard good things about it today, so might have to play some Noxus Thresh later. But also, just wait until I hit this off Bomber Twins and we have the Vandal Darkin, then it's all over. Next patch. Y'all are not ready.
Darkin.
I feel like
it's going to be Teemo too.
Is there a Vandal Darkin?
There will be. Everybody will have a Darkin,
I don't know.
right?
Someone told me it doesn't exist.
I'm expecting.
You gotta finish the cycle.
Someone said
right?
only Freljord is left.
Look, there's some other stuff in this game that isn't supposed to exist and does.
Do Ionia and Vandal not get Darkins?
I don't know. Well, okay, I guess the important question is the Vandal Darkin a Yordle?
Yes.
Yeah, right?
Is the Vandal going to be Aatrox?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense thematically, dude.
Well, I mean, maybe in League he's just like, they just made him taller than normal.
It's a possibility.
Oh, how do you guys like the Nami nerf?
Nami Dead.
Floppy, our resident Nami.
Should have been done a year ago.
Very happy.
What's the verdict on Nami nerf?
Dude, I can't believe PNZ Nami died for Ionia Sins.
True.
That was so cringe.
Tragic.
I'm just happy. I've been saying Nami needed a nerf for almost a year now.
She
Shadawx and
100%
Monte can
deserved it,
confirm
but
that.
I think if the Ionia deck didn't pop up, Nami would have dodged for a little longer.
That's fair.
I would have
You might have
liked
gotten
to
it
see
through
some
one
hits.
more Worlds.
Yeah.
So you're like, have you pivoted to I think it was MTux's Zed Lee Sin list? Is that the one?
You just cut 3 Nami
you
and
run
put 3
Shelly,
Zed and called it a day.
You just cut Nami for something else. You keep the Shelly and the MonteXristo.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying, dude. I think all those cards needed to get hit. I think Momentous Choice needs to get hit.
I'm an Akshan main now.
I think Akshan needs to go to at least cooldown 10.
I wish Akshan they changed it so that the cooldown was longer, but if you count down in deck. Because a lot of games with Akshan feels like if you draw it on 2, it's
fair.
broken as hell. But if you draw it on 6, it's only a mediocre card.
I feel like that's less apparent with weapons though, because you can't just cycle weapons, especially ones as cheap as the Bloodletters, and expedite that landmark flip.
Yeah, that's another.
Yeah, but
thing.
even then,
Momentous Choice.
I'm sorry, you're saying
right with that card either.
I was saying even with the weapons, it still has that problem though, where sure later on you'll have more mana to cycle more weapons, but you can only cycle the weapons once per turn, and you don't necessarily want to be doing that. You'd rather be leveling the Akshan normally and true attacks.
Yeah, I think there is definitely a way to incorporate Akshan like that, where he levels through deck. That would make him a lot more of an engaging experience and a lot more of a balanced experience in the sense of the power level is more evenly distributed, right? Which I think is a lot of what you were getting at. But I just think it's really hard to do and not something I'm sure Riot would do, unfortunately. But it's something that maybe they would do when they change him. But I think it's about time Akshan needed to change. I've been a staunch Akshan defender for the longest time, but we were talking about cards in general earlier, and Floppy mentioned this to me, how like Akshan is like not okay with equipment at all, and like Akshan was potentially not even made with equipment in mind, like because equipment kind of broke this guy.
It's true.
Yep.
Because like he's always been good, but just being able to have a way to consistently cycle him, like it's pretty much recurring spells compared to like before to just keep triggering Akshan. And I think like it's a deck that I don't think we really talked about and didn't really pop up until very last minute before seasonals last season. But like Akshan Panth was kind of quietly doing a lot of work, and it was just this deck where all it did was just pop horde over and over and over again until like the opponent just said, all right, like I'm done. It like popped horde and played Zolani until the opponent cried.
Yeah, that deck was actually rather solid, and I think if I was playing in that seasonal, I probably would have ended up bringing it to open rounds. I liked it more than I liked Fiora Pantheon. It's probably still playable and quite good right now. Decks that have a solid game plan like that tend to do really well on day one.
Yeah.
Why don't we talk about that for a little bit? If you guys were to play to seriously climb today, like what would you be on? I think I'd be looking at Annie Jin, to be honest.
I mean, aggro's always a good choice for day one. Like something linear and aggressive is always good. If you want to be climbing to day one, you probably want to stick to like good decks from last patch. Pantheon is good, whichever one you want to play. Akshan decks are good, whichever one you want to play. You know, Lee Sin, Pantheon, Sivir. You know, you have your choice. Gwen decks are good, whichever one you want to play. Vayne, Zed,
Whichever one you want to
Katarina. You know, just play the good champs from last patch, man. Except Nami. You know, we don't talk about her anymore.
Nami Dead.
Honestly, I feel like you just like cut Nami for a pile of rocks, and you could probably still climb with that deck.
Malphite?
Malphite? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Malphite's in
someone
the
get
wrong
Nami,
region,
Malphite.
so...
Malphite, Lee Sin, it's the future.
Yeah, I like Annie Jin
feel-
as like a climbing deck. And then most of like whatever card
I
gamer
feel like you just play. You guys, I do think it's probably Fiora Pantheon actually. Just like with all these like, if people are playing unoptimized lists without the proper interaction, you can just call on the Fiora every time.
Mm-hmm. And you have the Darkin Aegis now, and Fish Fight.
Yeah, fish fight.
Fish Fight is kind of interesting because like Fish Fight was a trailer to all this like 2 or less cost weapon stuff that we're getting with Vayne and her package.
Mm-hmm. It's a pretty good card. Single combat was really important last season with how much Ionia was running around and all the Hoko and stuff for a deck like Fiora Panth, but it might be correct for them to be on Fish Fight now, especially with like the utility of popping off equipment to reattach for faded procs or to just play the Darkins as, Darkins. Because sometimes, especially on one equipment hands, like there's a really common play pattern against Fiora Pantheon of just hostaging the Darkin equipment on their units so they can't play this big bomb. So it'll be interesting that they can like start to run more spells and more ways to play around that.
See, I said Fish Fight. I meant Catch.
Catch.
Catch
Yeah.
sucks.
That's the one I meant. So, okay, Catch sucks, but like they literally released the rest of the Catch archetype.
Yeah,
It's true. They did.
That's what I was trying to say.
They did. But Catch sucks.
Catch doesn't suck.
Catch
It's
is really bad.
Not great, but
Catch is pretty bad.
you could be playing Radiant
Sounds
Strike.
like someone who hasn't won with catch before.
Yeah. Alright, look, I was playing Catch in my Sand Scouts list pre-patch because I was bored, and that went hard, alright? I'll not take any Catch slander
Yeah,
here.
now you can play catch and then give it tough right away. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Yeah, it's busted.
Cool.
You could play Fish Hot Potato. You catch, and then you Fish Fight, and then you catch again.
Yeah, exactly.
Insane.
Did Deep get any cards? Mr. Random?
No. Nope. I feel like it arguably got a nerf. Literally every expansion, I look at the new cards, I'm like, my favorite deck got nerfed relative to everything else.
It's just the way it be sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if it makes you, well, it wouldn't make you feel any better. But I mean, both of your favorite decks got nerfed this time.
I mean, just the existence of Vayne just means every deck I enjoy is now considerably worse.
Yeah, that's fair. And the Darkin Aegis, man, like it's rough out here.
It's a hard knot to climb.
Did you see Cup's beautiful tweet where he was like, everyone got, all the Iona Simps got full power Nami for this season. Please, please let me get a full power Vayne for Worlds.
I should have a full power like late game meta.
Yeah. I mean, it's gonna be interesting. Like this season, ladder doesn't matter at all. Right?
Yeah, I mean,
so it'll be really interesting to see what people do. Like people are trying to climb.
Is it confirmed that?
Yeah. Okay.
I wonder how refined the meta is going to be.
It'll be refined.
How many weeks do we have?
Until
I mean, people aren't going to play their best stuff on ladder.
November 16th, I think.
19th.
six
19th.
weeks. Yeah.
We've got a month to the patch, but like if you find something, you just keep it on the DL if it's not obvious.
What I'll say is, even if the ladder meta is a lot more chaotic and less refined than usual, there will be a lot of refining to the meta because we have Aegis into Worlds. It may mean the meta becomes super inbred, because like Aegis in general, especially because of like the group format, things become pretty inbred. And then also like in group world testing, I imagine like things are going to be pretty kept in-house for a lot of worlds testing for obvious reasons among different testing groups. So like the meta may end up being pretty inbred, and some people have like wildly different meta reads, but I wouldn't expect everything to just stagnate and like quality to go completely down, just because there are a lot of big events that matter to, you know, the players who want to be competitive, which is a bit of a different demographic than the latter players. There's a lot of overlap, of course, but it's not necessarily the same.
Yeah, especially after like the next patch coming up, right? The Worlds patch, basically. Then it's then you'll see a lot of close to the chest kind of decks, right? And you never know. Riot might pull a quick one with this season, you know? They might say, we're not resetting ladder. This whole season counts for next one.
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask. Is it confirmed that they're not going to do that?
It's actually not, as far as I know.
I mean,
they've never made a statement.
It's not. But if...
Can you imagine? They're just like, oh yeah, it's
if they let this season... Okay,
and
so
like,
if it did it, you would still literally have 2 months to climb ladder. Like, you would still have so much time.
Yeah, but you know somebody's going to climb a 2K OP.
Yeah. 2K? That's it? I mean...
4K. I was saying 4K.
Dude, JO1's gonna hit like 5 digits, man, if like the LP doesn't reset until February when the next seasonal tournament is. Like, oh my, bro, like...
We might have a Singaporean player just untouchable on ladder in Americas again.
True.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
It's interesting though. I guess we can talk about that for a short period of time before we jump into Worlds more. We have a new seasonals confirmed. It's all the way out in February, which sucks. I know a lot of people have been like really upset it's that far out, and like I'm sure we would all want more seasonals, but like on the other hand, like I'm kind of just happy we're still getting them with like cutbacks this year to everything. Yep. You know, I was a little bit hesitant to even like have my hopes up that was going to be more competitive Runeterra, but you know there is, and that's great.
Yeah, I definitely gotta agree with you there, CardGamer. I think a lot of people get really down and kind of like to doomsay the competitive scene, but Riot seems to be pouring more investment in these days. We'll see what happens with Worlds. They did say that way back when they first announced this year's Worlds that they were going to put a lot more effort into coverage and stuff. We'll see if they hold up their end of that bargain, but who knows?
It's not from like a competitive standpoint. It's not even the coverage for me.
Yeah.
It's just one.
Like, remember last year?
I just wanted to hire like a TO and where they don't give separate rules to the TOs and they gave the players. Like the waitlist stuff, they gave us completely separate rules than what they gave the TOs. And like they gave us the wrong dates for, like they announced the wrong dates in a video way before, and then they announced the correct dates. Like Josh Insternal said he couldn't play at the new dates, and Kevor, he took off to play at the new dates and didn't make it in because the TOs were given different rules. And then right the day before the event, the TOs tried to change the days again, where originally it was supposed to be a 2-day event. The day before, the TOs were like, wait, why can't we just do this in one day? Which they totally could have, except for the fact that like we were told way before that it was going to be a 2-day event.
Yeah.
Like I just want I don't even care about the broadcast being better. Like the broadcast, I thought, except for the fact we didn't get any coverage before the top 16, I thought the broadcast was great, except for that fact. Like the main thing I was hoping for improvement was on the organizational side of it.
Yeah, there was an issue with like every little step. But
I think that's very fair.
Yeah, so far, I mean, they given us dates, not like a week ahead. They gave us dates way ahead. They did say there would also be a patch before instead of 4 days.
Yeah. They've been more transparent, right? I mean, we can always want more, but the thing to also keep in mind is like Worlds in League of Legends, like it was announced a bit ahead, but like not super far ahead, and then like the venues weren't really super far ahead, and then the tickets were last minute, so like it's kind of just how things go with a lot of this stuff, unfortunately. But they're getting better about it, right? And like if they do have like the tournament run properly this year, then I think it's like a pretty big success. Because last year there was like definitely a lot of issues. Like the whole Kever thing was pretty like not a good situation to have happen, to put it lightly. And then on top of that, it would have been very nice to have an official broadcast for the qualifiers, because the qualifiers were really exciting and fun to watch as someone who watched them all. And like as someone who watched them all, also I just want to say like a big shout out to Boulevard and Jay Doza for doing that last year. Like first of all, insane to do what they did, and like second of all, just like really, I think it's like huge for the community and the competitive scene to like stream that and provide commentary for, you know, all of everyone to watch.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you.
Yeah, I think they'll do a lot better this year for sure. I mean, it's their second, right? The first one was their first, and yeah, you can expect mistakes. I didn't expect that many, but you can expect mistakes. And this one, for sure, they'll definitely learn. I mean, it already seems like they're learning from it and doing a lot better.
And the top 16 was like good. It was just before that.
Yeah. The actual like, I guess finals or playoffs was great. Yeah, I don't think there was like too much off about that.
All right, gentlemen, I don't know about you, but I am super eager to get back to playing the video game myself. So does anybody have anything they want to add before we call today's episode?
Maybe no TK.
No.
New list dropped, Shadawx?
I gave a teaser.
Oh Lord.
All right, well then I think that's going to be it from us this week. Thank you all so much for sticking through to the end. We hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next week. Thank you once again to our guests for joining us as well. Bye.
Thanks for having us.